Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Lloyd Boll from the website electricsense.com. My mission is finding and sharing solutions and raising awareness so that we can all live a healthy life in our electromagnetic world. Today, I'm thrilled to have as my guests Josh Del Sol Beaulieu and Cal Washington. Josh Del Sol is a documentary filmmaker and rights advocate, passionate about restoring safe technology. In 2014, his documentary Take Back Your Power, investigating the smart grid, won a string of awards and to date has been screened publicly in more than 300 venues worldwide. Cal Washington is an empowerment advocate and contractor who, I quote, has stumbled into knowledge leading to an extraordinary experience within the systems of commerce and justice. As co-founder of InPower Movement with Josh Del Sol, Cal is dedicated to sharing his knowledge to help people truly take back their power and hold accountable those involved in agendas causing harm. Today we're going to be talking about their bold new project, InPower Movement, and the website inpowermovement.com, what it involves, how it works, and in what way this offers a solution to the millions of people whose health is being compromised by smart meter radiation exposures. Josh, Cal, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Lloyd. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd.
Great to have you on. Great to have you on. So, it's a little bit different today. So we've got two guests. So, that's an added, slight added complication, but it's really a really great pleasure to be speaking to you. I've been admiring your work, Josh, for quite a few years. So it really is great to talk to you at last.
Oh, thank you, Lloyd. Yeah, vice versa. I appreciate all you're doing and how you're communicating, bringing so many experts out to the world. It's great to see.
Thank you. So I'd like to start, Josh, by asking you about Take Back Your Power, which has been a phenomenal success, winner of numerous prestigious awards, including the Aware Guide Transformation Film Award. So I think we can describe the film as a revelatory documentary about the dangers of smart meters. My question is, how did that come about, and what is it that motivated you to make a film about smart meters?
Yeah, good question. I like to tell people that I was really turned on fire for this project when I got a call from my friend, a good friend of mine at the time, who actually was harmed by a smart meter that she didn't even know was installed until after her symptoms started. So she traced back the start of her symptoms, like many people, probably even those of your listeners to this podcast, noticed an effect right away after a so-called smart meter was installed. And she was one of those people. So because she was, her and I were in touch already, and we were friends, for a couple of years previously, at that point, it became personal for me. It's like, okay, somebody that I care about is being harmed now. Now I need to get to the bottom of this because nobody else seems to be doing it. I mean, in terms of using film or media to really get out there. And I was really frustrated that it wasn't being talked about. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Is this actually a real thing that's happening? So what started out as interviewing a handful of electrosensitive people kind of snowballed, and then we caught the vision to really get this out in a bigger way.
Right. So, because initially it started out quite modestly, as I understand, as a YouTube video. That was the idea. And then you went and won all these awards back in 2014. And now you've got more plans, as I understand it, for 2017?
Well, the 2017 version is in the process of being released. We just did, several weeks ago, by the time this interview airs, we did a a free week long screening with Mercola.com. That was the official release of the 2017 version. And I'll just announce it. If it's not already up on our website, we're planning to release Take Back Your Power 2017 for free permanently, without any obligation, without any restriction whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Because the information now, we're basically switching our model to, look, we're in a kind of a nearing crisis situation with some of these technologies and how they're proven to be unsafe, and yet they're continuing to be rolled out. So with our InPower movement, which is now being launched, we've switched from the traditional make something and then sell it model to, look, we need to give this away. We need as many people as possible to see this, and we are going to trust that the support will be there, that this is going to be something valuable once the community realizes that the significance of and the reality of the liability action and how it's going to we believe play a positive role in restoring safe technology.
Yeah. So for people that want to see this, Take Back Your Power, if you just go on to Google, I've seen this page on Mercola. If you just Google Mercola Take Back Your Power, then you'll be able to get onto that page, and it is on there, and it is free. So that's really excellent. So
I just like to, could I also share? I kind of didn't even answer your question properly, Lloyd. Forgive me. Yeah. But the Take Back Your Power 2017, it's also available on our new website, InPowerMovement.com. So InPower, Power Movement, and it's about 5 minutes shorter, but there's about 25% new content coming in there that is highly relevant to the situation currently now here in 2017. So over the past 3 years since the 2014 release, there have been numerous, you could say, revelations, and it's become even more transparent that the smart meter agenda is simply all about harvesting the data of what everyone does in their own home unlawfully, and some of the admissions around that from within industry itself have made it so clear and so obvious that we've actually included some more of those admissions in the 2017 version. We also have expert testimony, more expert testimony. Dr. Timothy Sheckley is the new addition as far as the experts go that I'm most excited about, and he helps to piece together the understanding here in a really powerful way. And there is, of course, it leads into how and why this liability action in the process of applying of us as people applying the principles of commercial liability to hold accountable those that are causing harm. Why, like how that works and why it works is actually introduced in Take Back Your Power 2017. So I think the bottom line is it's a cut that I'm most excited about. It is the final cut. It's going to be out there for free. And so if you're listening to this, please check it out, InPowerMovement.com, and share that film as it's now free and as it's a powerful entranceway into awareness and the solution now of the smart meter and other issues of harm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so your latest project is InPower Movement. This website InPowerMovement.com. That's where it's featured. And so before we dig into what your movement is about, first I'd like to ask you quite simply, how did you guys meet? What's the story behind the birth of this movement? And part of the story is almost certainly Take Back Your Power, I'm guessing. But so how did this start, and what brought you guys together? Perhaps Cal wants to answer this one.
Sure. I met Josh quite a few years ago, and part of this notice of liability that we're advocating right now. I went through the a process where I came face to face with the justice system and was able to prevail. And so word got around, and a group of fellows came to meet me one day, and Josh was one of those. After and we became friends pretty much from the start of that, and then after he did the film, he felt that the film brought awareness, but it kind of left people, with no solution. It's just more like, here's the big problem, and that's where it stops. So he asked if what I had learned through the justice system could be used as far as a solution for the smart meter issue, and I said, of course. And so we adapted this process that I had learned over a period of time to the smart meter issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, because you sent me episode 1, Josh, of the film you're making here, a series of films that you're making here, informational films. And so I was watching you, Cal, speak, and I was thinking, and just kind of the way you speak, and you seem to have a very good grasp of the legal issues. And I thought, well, this guy's a lawyer. But now I'm thinking, no, he's not a lawyer. So it's just your personal experience, Cal, with this. What was this issue before? How did this happen? How did you get involved with this?
Well, to be frank, it started with a divorce. And I ended up in court. And I had really not been in court before. I was just sort of a normal guy, leading a normal life, working, and family. I had 5 daughters, and and so I had this idea of what court was. It was this just system where you weighed evidence, and then you came to a some kind of balance point, because you see those balance scales all as far as the justice system. So that was my idea of what it was, and I think that's how most people think it is. When I got in there, that's not what was happening, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But I knew that's not what's going on here. There's some other agenda in here, and so that was the sort of the starting point. And so I started asking questions, and quite pointed questions, towards the judges, and I even got a couple of judges who saw, the questions I was asking and said, keep going. And I'm like, didn't even know what that meant. Like, I didn't know I was doing anything. I was just had this, inquisitive thing, like, what's happening here? Like, this is not what I was expecting. And so I would ask pertinent questions. And I had a couple of police officers also say, I see what you're doing, keep going. So it kind of encouraged you that people on the inside who were actually, their job was to persecute me, were telling me, I think they knew that the corrupt system, and they could see that I was actually poking at it. So it gave me encouragement, and so I just kept going and kept going and kept going, and I learned through trial and error, with mostly error at the beginning. And I had to pay the consequences of those errors. And so I learned the hard way what doesn't work and what does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
And he's being modest. I'll just jump in here, Lloyd. I mean, he's so Cal has had numerous judges either like literally run off the bench, or prosecutors step down, or judges quit cases, and things happen behind the scenes that really, really strongly indicate that that those who are in positions of power who are abusing it are afraid of liability. And they're afraid of making an unjust decision when someone like Cal has done a specific process in which is enforcing their liability based upon them doing the right thing, whether it's an oath that they've sworn, for example, in Canada to the Queen, in the States to the U.S. Constitution to support and defend it, or in any Commonwealth country swearing an oath to the Queen, or whether it's if in a corporate jurisdiction and a corporate acting as a corporate officer, if they're causing harm in that capacity too. Cal has had numerous people actually resign, and in many cases the same day that his documents, that his notices and his default document, which is based in commerce, was received by them for a large sum of money, which perhaps Cal can explain a little bit more. But I just wanted to jump in because I know there is a lot to this story. It is a paradigm shift, and it's a process in which we go, which we realize that, wow, we actually have the ability to influence people in positions of leadership who are involved in corruption. We can actually help to enforce them to do the right thing. And in some cases, they don't want to be part of the corruption anymore.
Yeah.
Is what we found out.
Yeah.
So this is really, really significant. Cal has had some tremendous string of so-called coincidences within the system of people in positions of power responding in ways. And I just want to say at this point, Lloyd, that over the past 2.5 years, we've actually worked with 3, I'm calling them seed groups, initial groups that have taken the notice of liability process that Cal and others behind the scenes had previously, formulated over trial and error. We've actually taken that, we've used that in 3 different regions, 1 in Canada and 2 in the States. And in each of those regions, we've seen some very interesting things happen, including people resigning their post.
Okay, so let's talk about that then, if we can. So I looked at your website, InPowerMovement.com, which is great. I know it's very new, but it looks terrific. There's I really like the feel of it, because it's about helping people and empowerment. And the theme is still take back your power, isn't it? Yeah. So empowerment, take back your power, electrical power. So it's a great title, by the way.
Thanks.
So what exactly, for the listeners, is the problem that you're looking to solve?
Okay. Well, InPower Movement, essentially, Take Back Your Power, the film, was the trailer for this movement now.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that more clearly now, that this is an opportunity now that we're seeing how harmful these so-called smart meters are to our rights and our health and our families and our future, and just the way that society is being shaped to go. We're seeing that as a very, very good opportunity, which it's like a crack in their system, which we can come into and actually enforce the liability using this process and the accountability of those that have been doing harm. So since I've been starting the process of making Take Back Your Power, from that point until now, I have basically seen that there's all these well-intentioned people trying to take a stand for their rights, but nothing really to this point is working, Lloyd. And I think this is a frustration that's shared by most people that come into this, and most of the listeners out there. And I mean, what do we have to do? How much harm do we have to prove? We were sharing our individual testimonies about how our health is suffering, about how we are being harmed, and even our elected representatives are not able to do anything about it. I mean, like, what's really going on here? We're getting petitions with hundreds of thousands of signatures in some cases that aren't having any effect whatsoever. So as we kind of go down that path of exploration a little bit, we start to see that the corruption is systemic and at a way deeper level than we probably thought before we went on this journey. And we start to see that the industry actually has budget set aside to lobby or to bribe legislators who are making the laws that facilitate smart meters. And to back that up, in one of our 3 seed groups, that actually is in Michigan, is based in Detroit. There was a couple dozen people there that have used the liability action, and resulted in several things happening again, including a number of people resigning. But one of the respondents in the Michigan seed group was a city lawyer who wrote us back a letter. Who actually he resigned a month later as well to leave his post and to get back into private law, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, but before he resigned, he wrote back a letter to the claimant, to the one that's holding him liable, because him being a city lawyer needs to do the right thing. At the bottom of the letter that he wrote back to the claimant, it said, and this is in episode 1, actually, you can see it, that the utility DTE has a budget of $20 million a year to lobby or to bribe state legislators. So that's one utility's budget to influence the decisions being made in the legislature for one state. Okay, so this is, and you can kind of see, since the same thing is happening everywhere, this is being done, in terms of people not being able to say no effectively to a smart meter without being extorted, that the same bribery must be happening everywhere. Okay, so that was like a subtle hint for us to go after the decision makers, hold them liable, right? Because I think this guy's on the inside, and he's probably one of those guys that deep down, wants to see change. He's kind of conflicted because people like him and people up high in the system are benefiting from having nice paydays, being involved in the system, but at the same time, deep down, they know it leads to destruction. They know all of this leads to, totalitarianism and people not having rights. Because if you don't even have rights to health, I mean, that's the, the
So when you say paydays, is this like, envelopes of money kind of paydays, or is it official payoffs? How have they been paid?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have the answer to that. But by looking at the level of corruption going on, I would say it's not a stretch to say it would be both, oftentimes. But in any case, if there's like an official budget of $20 million to lobby for what you want to have happen, to lobby a committee of legislators, right? Because it's really the committees that are deciding these things for the most part. Then that's massively significant when you're talking about the numbers of legislators involved. So, okay, then we started to see at that point, that's like a confirmation for us. We're on the right track. The language is money, and the crux is liability. Okay, if their language is money, if they're getting paid like $1 million to push something through, well, if we hold them liable for $10 or $300 million if they do that thing, which we're finding out that we actually have the ability to do, then, do you think their motivation would be changed?
Okay.
Hit them where it hurts.
Well, yeah. It's more of balancing the scales, because right now there's incentive to go along with the agenda, whether you agree with it or not. This incentive is there to either turn a blind eye to it or actively participate, and there's no downside. There is nothing to balance that. So when somebody's sitting on the fence in that sense, like the sense that Josh just described, where they kind of like, well, I kind of like the money, but I don't really like where this is going. If there was a liability side to this, where if I continue, turning a blind eye to this, I'm going to be stuck with a liability. Now the choices becomes more real. Like it's an actual. They have to actually do something, and what you'll see is they'll either step down or actively move to the other side. But until that liability is there, it's too easy for them just to keep quiet and let it go by, right?
Yeah. So, and this, because there are other lawsuits which are ongoing, and because actually before we came on air, I just went to stopsmartmeters.org, and there are a number of smart meter actions listed on there, some of which have been successful not many. Okay, so there's a couple in Hawaii and one in Maine. So the question is, in what way? Because people are saying, well, yeah, taking the smart meter utilities on, they're powerful, and. So, in what way is your solution different? Is that it? Liability? Is that the key?
I would say liability is the main catalyst, but it's going. The whole idea is to go up jurisdictions. That's the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm.
What has happened here on this planet? Just to get to the bottom line truth of the matter, there are a small group of people who are trying to control the masses, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a pyramidical structure, and they have all these illusions of structures that are quite fragile, but we believe in them so strongly. So things like money, countries. The planet didn't come with countries, and you'll see that wildlife doesn't understand that there's a border at any point. They just move, and there's nothing stopping them. So that's how the planet is designed. The countries are an idea, and they are part of the control structure at a very fundamental level. And so they put on these things called Olympics in order for people to really nationalize, and I'm a Canadian, and I'm an American, and and really that's not, there's no truth to that. It's we've just bought in. So that in mind, we have a small group of beings at the top who are trying to control, and they don't believe in countries, and they want to go to a one world system, and the smart meter issue is part of that agenda. So you have to get up jurisdictions in order to affect any change, because they don't. If you stay inside the court systems that they have designed, you're going to have limited success, because they're controlled by those that are wanting to be in control of the whole thing. And that's what I found when I came through the court system, that it's not what we think it is. It's not even close, and it's a business at its core level. And once you get over the shock of that, and the kind of the anger of it, and just look at it for what it is, that's when you can have the success and go, okay, if that's a business, then I need to treat it as a business. And businesses work inside of what is called commerce, and there are rules in commerce, and there are ancient rules if you study. And if you can tap into that, you've moved up a jurisdiction. You've gone past where they can have control over you, and you actually are now in a balanced situation where you can influence. That's a bad word, but you can right the wrong. You can balance the situation because you're playing at the game at a higher level. So that's the difference. That to answer your question, that's the difference. This thing moves up. Actually, more than one jurisdiction. It's multi-leveled as far as jurisdiction. So when I did this, when I started to operate in commerce and treat everything like a business, including the Canadian government or the British Columbia government, the courts, because that's what they are. When I treated them like that, it's like I think everybody probably understands what Walmart is. So Walmart's probably the biggest retailer on the planet, but they can't come in and give you a summons to the Walmart court because you didn't shop there last week. People would look at that like that's ridiculous. You can't make me. Well, once you understand that the court is just another Walmart, who are you to tell me that I have to do this or do that? It changes your whole perspective. And I know it sounds, for people listening to this for the first time, I know it sounds crazy, and I would have thought so too, but that was my experience. Mm. And when I started to treat these institutions as businesses, that's when I had different results.
And Lloyd, we've seen some interesting things as far as court goes, and I want to balance the perhaps the questions and perhaps the skepticism that you're feeling right now if you're listening to this.
No,
I want to.
Oh yeah, sure.
No
skepticism here. I'm just digging to try and make this as clear as possible for the people that are listening.
For sure, and I want to just relate to the people that are listening, and just to really kind of hone in on. I mean, in the smart meter movement, in the awareness movement, and the drive to get results, we haven't seen a significant case be justly decided in the people's favor, period. What we've seen are very, very well-meaning and well-intentioned, in most cases, people who have their hearts in this. They have a good argument. They're using the traditional legal system, the court system. They're doing things like class action lawsuits and various other means fully within that system, and they're not getting results. We're seeing things like in Naperville, Illinois, where the judge's actual ruling is that, well, if you consented to have a smart meter, then you're consenting to be surveilled in your own home. That's what the judge's actual ruling was. But the people are wondering, how is it possible that we consented to a meter? I wrote letters and I put a sign up and I barricaded my meter, and then in some cases the police came and they installed the meter. I didn't want the meter. And you're saying that I consented to be surveilled in my own home? So in their language, within their system, we consented because we didn't say no in the correct way. We didn't know the game that was being played against us. We didn't know the rules. Like Cal says, they were playing chess and we thought it was checkers. Okay, so I want to make it clear, like we're not looking to like turn society upside down here, but we are looking to call out corrupted institutions such as corporations and government, and including the justice system. Lawyers or judges need to know better than to be, siding with some corporate agenda. There's a worldwide surveillance agenda, surveilling people in their own home, radiating them, making them sick, causing fires and explosions, and people have died from the fires from smart meters, making everything hacking vulnerable and jacking up people's costs. They should know better. They're in positions of power, and excuse my anger right now, but this is something that we do need to get fired up about. We need to start asking questions like, after 5 years in this or longer, why are we not getting the justice done within the court system? And what Cal is uncovering now, and all of the experiences that he's been through, is now finally able to start to answer some of those questions and to light the way toward a solution where we actually can stop trying to beg for our rights from people who really have no motivation to ensure that our rights are protected. They really don't. There's no motivation there. But and shift towards, we are taking a stand. We're putting our stick in the ground. We're claiming that that we do have the right to health and to privacy and to safety for us and our families and our future.
Because the truth is it not, that most people are law-abiding. Most people, I wouldn't say they're happy to pay the taxes, but they're happy that there is this system and that they fit into this system, and that they get up in the morning and they've got this kind of safe, they feel kind of safe and secure in their going about their everyday life. And most people, the truth is, most people don't want to take their utilities to court. Yeah, most people don't, because most people, for them, the utilities, they're providing a service, a valuable service. And so that's what most people are thinking, is it not? And most people are completely unaware of what's really going on. And it's because most people are in this situation. Most people are completely unaware about EMFs, about the dangers of these electromagnetic fields. most people are completely unaware of these privacy issues, civil rights issues. Most people are completely unaware of it. And this is the challenge, is it not? And so in doing what you're doing, you're making this easier, as I understand it, because you're systemizing this and you're saying, well, look, it can work because you've already got these 3 seed groups, and that's what I saw in this in this episode that you sent me in British Columbia and Seattle and Detroit, where it's working, and you're saying, well, look, there is a system that's working here, but then the challenge, is it not, is that most people are just kind of happy to just kind of follow the crowd, and this will go on.
Yeah, and I think that there is a collective wake up happening amongst humanity, that like somewhere within us we're realizing like this all ends up in a bad situation if we just go along and stay comfortable. So I see that. I mean, do you see that, Lloyd?
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
I mean, I've had my head down in this EMF thing since 2002, and it's difficult. And I've got sort of this EMF world, which I'm involved in pretty intensively when I sit in front of my own computer here. So I don't have a cell phone, okay? And I'm, so I've got a Facebook account, but I only put stuff on there related to what I do on Electric Sense. I'm not like, full on connected like a lot of people are these days.
Right.
And so it's difficult for me. And then I have kind of my other life, which is, with my family and things, which has nothing to do with any of this, and this is how I stay sane.
Yeah.
And because it is so intense, or it is very intense, and it is a huge problem, and the EMF thing is a huge problem, and I would like to believe that there is change in the air, and I think there is change in the air, but it's just a question of, how long this is going to take, and I think a lot of it is, how bad is it going to have to get before something really happens?
Well, I want to address that question about how long it's going to take. As an example, I got an email last night from someone in Hawaii who I know in this, the movement to stop smart meters, and she wrote me to say, I'll just read it. She said, "Josh, a quick and interesting update on the situation in Hawaii. In January, I distributed a modified version of a notice of liability at a meeting on Maui. Quite a few people followed up and sent certified copies of the notice to the president of MECO, which is the Maui Electric Company. Next thing we know, the utility announced they have abandoned the opt-out plan of blanketing the islands with smart meters and instead are doing an opt-in only. Coincidence? Excellent. Even more interesting, at a recent meeting, when someone asked about that switch, the utility actually denied that the opt-in was ever their plan, and only when pressed to the wall did they admit it, and they discounted their role in the opt-out, instead blaming the PUC. So this is just another example about how the notice of liability and the liability action is working, and it has been working behind the scenes, and now we're bringing it out for everyone to use. So this email is basically saying that they've gone from, as a result, it appears, again, another interesting timing of events lining up in a tremendous chain of coincidences, but it appears as a result of people sending in a notice of liability to the president of the utility, Maui has moved from an opt-out to an opt-in. In other words, they now require explicit consent from the homeowner to install a smart meter. Now, I'm talking with.
So that's one letter. Is that what you're saying? Because I'm looking through
one letter. Quite a few people sending it, but it's a same templated letter. My understanding. But I just want to say that I don't have all of the facts on this because I have a call scheduled with this individual tonight.
So can we just look briefly overview this process? These liability action steps, because from what I can see, it's very quick, rather quick anyway, because I'm counting between 14 days, so 28. So it's like within something like 6 weeks, certainly anyway, within 2 months, we can get real action on this. Is that fair to say?
Cal, do you want to address that? Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a process, and the first stage is to get what's called a default on a contract. That's the best way I can put it. That takes that's the part you're talking about. It takes about 2 months or so. You know, depending on when you send. If you're very diligent and send on the days that, you know, but most people have lives and so, you know, you have to take that into account. So it takes about 2 months to get a default.
It's actually 1 month within the way that we've customized this process from the start of it.
Yeah, but
okay.
that's if you were diligent and mailed on the exact day that.
Yes.
You know, yes. But most people, like I said, they spread it out. So.
Yep.
Right. Because sorry, I beg your pardon. Because looking at because I looked through the video there you sent me, and it lays out these liability action steps. First, send notice of liability, and then second, send notice of fault, send notice of default, and then finally, billing and enforcement. So what you're talking about here, Cal, this get default of contract so that's before this, is it?
Yeah, and that's when you can start billing. So it's like basic commerce.
Right.
If a bank was going to foreclose on a home, you would go through this sort of, you know, foreclosure process is what they call it, and it's a series of things that have to be spread out over time before they can actually go in and seize your house at the end, right? So it's not just instant. So
right.
it follows those principles and those rules of commerce, usually a 30-day between mailings, etc. So it's just using the rules of commerce and using it against them.
Right.
So
and the way, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about the normal people because I want people to understand that I was a normal guy. I paid my taxes. I had a mortgage and I had a family and I went to church and you know, just a normal, straight up guy. But then I was dragged into a situation where I had to make a stand. But just me, myself, and I had help. I had friends, you know, at least two very good friends that helped through all this process, and we learned together. But I was able to make probably, for sure, 20 people in very high politics and high positions step down. So you have to understand the significance of this. We don't need everybody.
Right.
Are you talking about your divorce proceedings?
Yeah, well, it escalated into that. Like it's about a 10-year story. So, and we don't have the time to get into all of that. But that's how it started, was a divorce, and then it escalated. So that's the best way I can put it. But what I learned and what happened over that period is what we're talking about here. But at the end of it, I was able to cause a lot of disruption in the system as far as the corruption. So we don't have to have everybody wake up. We have to have a few people. A few people can do a lot. Many people can do a lot more. So the more the merrier. But we don't have to have the whole world wake up and do this.
Yeah. So what's underlying this whole process, as I understand it, is the notion of contract law, which I know a little bit about because I trained as a chartered accountant, which is like a CPA.
Yeah.
That's how I start. So basically what you're doing is you're beating them at their own game. So there's this thing, what people don't realize is the way that this smart meter movement is being, or the smart meter is being rolled out, is that they're using contract law. So there's an offer, there's acceptance, and even though it's the offer is usually on the website, and the acceptance is usually it's non-explicit. That's so people don't even know that they're accepting. People don't really understand that this is a contract. And so there's all these elements of a contract, and what you're doing, your process is you're taking control of this contract and you're making them liable. Is that essentially it?
That is essentially it. That's exactly what's happening, and there's really little they can do about it. You'll get some responses where you can't do this and can't do that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, yes, we can, because you started the contract, like as you just said, and we are now taking control through negotiations, which is the meeting of the minds part of a contract law, which you understand.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of people who are thinking like, it's like you get that feeling in your stomach. It's a bit like when you're going down what I call the motorway, you call the autoroute. Sorry, what?
Highway.
I call the motorway, you call the highway. We call it the autoroute in France. We call it something else in Germany. Anyway, and you see the police behind you, and you get that sort of feeling in your stomach, don't you? Kind of a knot. And when you're in this situation of going to court and all this procedure, it's kind of makes you feel like that in a way, isn't it? It's kind of scary. It's like the court's a legal system, and it's a big thing to most people. Most people have never been in a court. I've been in a court, not a pleasant experience. So it is a scary experience. And so your process is like a hand-holding process through your website. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're envisioning, Lloyd. That's why we're doing the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. We're basically giving all the resources available for free up front that we can, and then we're building a website right now, which is going to be a central hub that is going to simplify and support and expand the liability action. Okay, so we're starting with the problem of smart meters, and then very shortly after, the intention is to branch out and include the problem of 5G deployments.
Okay.
Because there's legislators and there's corporate people that are pushing that, and then also the problem of mandatory unsafe vaccinations is on our radar as well. So our whole vision here is basically it's of, by, and for the people. It's to provide a sense of community and safety, and that we have each other's back, and that we are all going through this process together. We do not have the means to finish the website and provide all of those resources and tools and online community at this time. We've taken a couple of years. We've seeded this project. We've had tremendous angel donation support up until this point, but we're kind of showing our hand at this point and saying that we need help. We need financial help to make this reality. It's a crowd-funded movement, and this is a really key time. So we have everything up on Indiegogo. There's a link from InPowerMovement.com, and that's how, if you're listening to this and you want to see this vision come into manifestation, it is a critical time, and we're asking for your generous support at this time.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to. Can I just bridge off that too, and get back into what Cal was talking about? We are using their system against them, but we want to be clear that our motivation is not money, and that nobody, we're not building the expectation that you're going to get a big payday from doing this process. But what we are doing is using that contracted liability that they're become bound into, because they cannot answer our affidavit, because they're dealing in propaganda and lies, and we're putting in an affidavit of truth as part of this process. We're using that as leverage to have the correction, the balancing, as Cal talks about, happen first with the smart meter issue, and then with 5G and other issues, other problems going on from there.
Okay, and just to clarify, again, unfortunately, most people are not on board with this, but I hope, and I know you both do, that that this is going to change and very quickly. But what I do know is that probably most people that are listening to this are really, really, wanting to take this a step further and to know, and are hungry for details of what they can do, to make this happen. And so that is my question. What can they do to take back their power?
Well, at this point, I mentioned the Indiegogo campaign, so contributing to that and sharing the resources. So Take Back Your Power 2017, Episode 1, which is, it covers the entire story, the liability action, Cal's history, how it's worked so far, why it works, and how you can do it, actually. Episode 2 is also forthcoming, and that's actually walking through page by page, paragraph by paragraph, the actual notice of liability document, which is the big gun of, so to speak, of the process. So share our video resources, get on our website, InPowerMovement.com, and subscribe for updates and for next steps. Are three things that everyone doing this can do.
Okay.
Well, also the notice of liability is available in a PDF. So those that
yes
are feel strong enough to get started, it's available.
So it's on the website for free,
yeah.
And we just actually posted the Canadian documents as well, Lloyd. So right now we have the American Notice of Liability and the Canadian Notice of Liability, and we are, as we go, as we finish up the guides and the document templates, we're going to be posting everything online for free. So that right now you can go to our website, you can do the process and walk through the guides. If like Cal says, if you're feeling like you want to do that and be ahead of the curve.
So the notice of liability, that's step one. So go to the website and download that notice of liability. You have a subscription list, so a place where you can subscribe. So you're telling people to subscribe to that, and then people get sent information on the next steps to take. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, and all the videos are on the website, on our website as well.
Okay. And all this is free. That's the great thing. All this is free, but it costs money. And therefore, hence the need. So I'm looking at your Indiegogo as we speak here, and you're looking to raise $85,000. And as of today, you're just over the $10,000 mark. And so this is super important that people dig deep into their pockets and support this, is it not?
Yeah, we feel that when people catch on to this, we can make some huge changes.
Okay. Well, I will be supporting it financially.
Thank you.
So I will be making a contribution. And obviously I encourage everybody else that's listening, if everybody that's listening to this makes a contribution, well, that will be a significant boost to your funds. The other thing I wanted to say was, because this is not a typical audience here, and a lot of people that are listening have health issues with EMFs, and that's really my question is, what can be done about that in terms of seeking justice, retribution? And I know that individuals have tried to file lawsuits against this in the past. One name that comes to mind is Deborah Cooney, who filed a federal lawsuit against her utility company. No success there. Is there any, have you thought about trying to help people in that respect?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I think the first step is if you want to take a stand and protect your health and your rights, send in the notice of liability. And like we said, we can do that right now. But that's really, everything starts from there, because that's beginning to play the game in the correct level. And then from that point, now you're actually engaging with your utility and with your elected representatives at a productive level. You're not sort of operating from a place that is convenient for them. You're like we've been talking about for the past 45 minutes. You're operating from an empowered place. So that would be the first step. And as far as in the meantime, like as this is getting sorted out, and there will be like it will take time in most cases until it gets to the point where there's just a general realization within industry and government that this process is real, that people are enforcing it, which it actually is enforceable liability, and our 3C groups are very close to the stage of actually enforcing, which is going to be very uncomfortable for the people who have not discontinued the harm. So, but it will take some time to get to that point, but it's important that, set that as your first step, and then, Lloyd, you on your website and others have very good resources for mitigating the EMF.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Anything you just want to finish on here before we go?
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody listening in this movement. We're in this together, really, and we're on this journey, and it might seem daunting, but I mean, I know I'm committed to this thing, and Cal is as well. We've seen some tremendous positive changes happening behind the scenes. It is as a lawyer friend of mine, Andrew, has said, it is a tunnel of fear that we have to go through in a process of taking back our power and confronting some of this corruption and taking a stand. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I believe that we're getting close to that point, like collectively, and just we're moving through that tunnel right now, and doing it together with a sense of unity and community is going to help us get there. So yeah, Cal might have more thoughts than that.
I agree. There's always a fear element, and there's the the element of this is new. So it's out of everybody's normal paradigm, and but I can honestly say that I learned this the hard way, and I had to go through all those feelings of it started off with fear, the gut feeling that Lloyd was talking about. But when I go into court now, it's actually turned around the other way, and the judge feels that feeling in his stomach, which is easy for me to say from this point of view. It took a long while, but that's the fact. I'm the one who goes in, and they all try and get out of my way. And it's not because I'm smarter than anybody. It's just that I have learned the game at the level or even higher than where they're playing, and there's nothing they can do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I tell you what I like here is because I've got a vision of the world, and it might be slightly peace and love, but it's sort of, and the more time goes by, the more I've got this vision of living in harmony. And what I really like about what you're doing, the whole energy that this has got, that you've got, is it's not about a fight.
No.
And I saw something on a website, one of your websites, and I was actually looking, I couldn't find it now, but it was a quote from Sitting Bull. And it was about, what a warrior, what it means to be a warrior. And it was saying something along the lines of, it's not about fighting, it's about making sacrifices. And I think that is true. And I think that this is, and the sacrifice is this daunting feeling, is this, unpleasantness, is this tunnel of fear. But really, all that matters is doing the right thing. And when we're in our truth, in that place of truth, we are so, so powerful. And the people that are not in truth, that are not working in truth, they're not in this place of truth, they are just you can knock them over by, with a feather.
Yes.
That's how, that, to use a metaphor. And so I think that's what feels right to me about what you're doing, and that's why I like it. It's about the truth, and the truth is really important. Being in your truth, and obviously what's going on is wrong, and I know it's wrong, and it's not really something that I dwell on. The corruption angle, and I had Dr. Deborah Davis on here a few months back, and we talked a little bit about that, and obviously her book Disconnect talks about that with the cell phones. And the reason I don't dwell on this angle is because there seems to be little good in it. There's very little positive to be taken out of it. And so what I like about what you're doing is there seems to be something good and positive because we're not fighting, because we're in this place of truth. So well done on that. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I hope it really spreads. I'm sure it will. It's just a question of time, how long, when, those questions. Obviously, the seed groups, that needs to come through. But, it's well done, and thank you both for being here today and sharing this with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lloyd. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd.
Okay. So, just a reminder that the website which Cal and Josh are involved in, and which you can go to for information on this subject, is InPowerMovement.com, and that's where you get all these free resources. And the thing to do, though, is to go to the website Indiegogo.com, and you can do a Google search for this, but I will be putting links on my website so people can find this easily, and make a contribution to this InPower movement, taking back our power. And honestly, I really encourage everybody to contribute here, because this is the way the universe works, folks. The more you give, the more you get back, okay? So Josh and Cal here are given a lot. They're given a lot because really one of the most precious things you can give is your time. And so I can imagine the amount of time they've both put into this. So give generously. And lastly, thank you, listener, for attending today. If you're looking for solutions to deal with EMFs and their effects on your health, this interview and all my previous interviews are available in the EMF Experts Solutions Club with full transcripts. I've interviewed dozens of scientists, electrical engineers, alternative health practitioners, doctors, scientists, activists, film directors like Josh on EMFs and health, and they've shared some unique insights. In the next episode, I'll be interviewing another expert, so watch your inbox for details. My name is Lloyd Borrell from electricsense.com. Thank you, and have a great day. Thank you.